Welcomes are loud.
If you haven't already, go ahead and look at the first item on the agenda about putting your state name, your last name and your state name on your screen there. I need to do the same here.
Me too.
Harry, you made it.
Well, for a short while. The meeting is they got social time and stuff. They don't start the food till 6. So I'm just gonna show up at 5:45 for the food.
Must be a good meeting if they have food.
And it's free. It's our city employee certain class of whatever annual union meeting. So we'll find out what they've come up with for negotiations and contracts and stuff. But we can't strike, but it helps negotiate when you have enough people involved that come up with better deals,
Definitely.
Gwen, I've forgotten how to have the conversation show on the right-hand side rather than in the captions.
Yeah, so if you go, for me, I'm on a PC. So down at the bottom is where I have all of my Zoom menus.
Yeah.
And with the caption button, wherever you find it there, mine's towards the end. Sometimes it's under more. There's a little caret, a little up arrow.
Got it.
And you can see full transcript, and I'm going to do the same here.
Yeah, it's so much nicer than having the caption box in front of people's faces.
It is. And I don't know if, why we're here and part of our talk today is captions. You can grab that Zoom caption box and you can move it off of people's face if you want. I did not know that for a long time.
Yeah, it's still big enough that it covers things. We will start in just a couple of minutes. I think we have a few more people joining us, so we'll start in a little bit here.
Margaret is.
I always have everyone. Another minute or so while we wait for everyone to join, and then we'll start.
Few kiddos that disappeared. That was Vicky. Were those your grandkids?
Oh, yeah. That's great. Zoom, everybody's welcome. It's kind of fun to wave at the camera.
Hi.
It's going to be standing room only at this point.
Well, at least you don't have to have skis on like you, Alan.
Okay, well, I think it's looking pretty good here, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. Let's see, I see at least one new face, and So I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Sue Pritchard, and I am the co-chair with Ginevra of Loop Oregon, which still exists. It's like a partner with Center for Hearing Access. And so we're blending together for the benefit of both organizations. I am in Eugene, Oregon. So Vicki, I think you are the new face here today. Could you just say hello and tell us a little bit about your connection with hearing loss and where you are?
Yeah, my name is Vicki Leeper. I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Disability Action Center Northwest. We have 4 offices that serve Northern Idaho and Eastern Washington, and we cover all kinds of disabilities. So of course, hard of hearing and deaf is a part of that. And one of the big things we do is systemic advocacy. So that's making a community aware of what they need to do to be accommodating the ADA.
Do you have
And,
hearing loss yourself or not?
Pardon me?
Do you have hearing loss yourself?
As I just said, pardon me. No, I don't think I do. Vision loss, yes, but not hearing loss.
You might want to get it checked.
No, that's
Okay.
fine. This is Wynn. I'll just jump in. I'm the face of CHA, Center for Hearing Access. And here in Colorado, I love partnering with the broader disability community. I think that's where we can create great change, and they're incredible advocates when you reach other people with disabilities. So I am delighted that you're here, Vicki, and I'm delighted that you have joined us, Crystal. I know, that was a few months ago, but we just keep on growing, and I think it's just great.
Wonderful. Let's see. Are there any other? I think everybody else has been. Margaret, you've been here before, correct?
Yes, I was in there last month. Yes, yes.
Great. Okay.
I am in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I represent the hearing loss at Options of Green Bay. Options deals with all the disabilities, but I am part of the Loop advocacy.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Well, as you saw, the agenda has just become something really quite magnificent. There's so much information in it. I was going through it this morning and looking and seeing how much there is to read and watch, just a lot of resources. I'm very excited about all of that because it seems like for the first time we have so many things in one place, and it's wonderful. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Wynn, for being so good at putting that all together. So let's talk about what's happening around the country. I know that Dorothy has an update, and I think Harry has an update, and anybody else who does will pool it all together. So Dorothy, do you want to start first?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? I'm not muted or anything. Okay. This is really wonderful. And I have to say that I have good news that I believe is happening because of the FAA Reauthorization Act that was signed in May. And in it, I mean, it's hundreds of pages long, but in it, there is a requirement that airports update their access for hearing, tactile, oral, and I don't have it right in front of me, access in the airports, at gates, at ticket windows, etc. And I think that that's really what's pushing this. I'd love to know who got that into the Reauthorization Act, because it's just like 2 paragraphs, but it's going to change lives, I hope. Anyway, Warren Brown and I are the principal people in this teeny organization that includes pretty much just us, the Loop Initiative of Northeast Ohio. And we have been going around for years promoting loops and talking to organizations and groups and so on. He is an installer, and I provide the client profile, as it were. I've had a hearing loss since I was in my 30s, and so I talk about the advantages of loops. So we've been trying for years to get the attention of the city council or, whatever. And finally, we got a meeting with the Cleveland Hopkins Airport Associate Director for Airport Development and the ADA person and an IT person and several other people who, I don't know, they didn't want to identify themselves, but they were various people from the airport. So we showed a PowerPoint to about 8 or 10 people. We were expecting 2, and we got 8 or 10, and presented the advantages of loops. Cleveland Hopkins Airport is due to be renovated. It may take a while because they want the airlines to pay for it. And so far they have some money, but I don't even think they have half yet. But we emphasized the fact that we really wanted looping to be part of the plan, because if it's inserted into the plan for renovation, then hopefully it'll happen. So they had many, many good questions. And when the meeting was over, the ADA had asked Warren to submit an estimate. It can only be an estimate because, he doesn't have all the ins and outs of the whole structure. But we got really down to nitty gritty, and we debated whether a loop could be installed for like 3 gates at once. And the answer of that is no, because two or 3 gates might be making announcements at the same time. But, people really did pay attention to what we were saying. And Warren was wonderful talking about the ins and outs of the technical details. So I'm very happy to report that, and I will keep you posted. Warren is working very hard. He's having to call people from other states who have looped airports, and we'll be sending them an estimate, I don't know, probably within a few weeks. And then we wait.
That's wonderful. That's an incredible report. There is an article that I think I actually have a copy of it still, that was written a few years ago about the airports that are looped.
Yes.
With a list of them. And there are many. I mean, it's surprising. There are many that are actually fully looped. I know that one is the Grand Rapids, Michigan airport, but there were dozens of others.
If anybody would like a list, I think I have the latest comprehensive list of airports that are looped. That was one of our handouts. We also handed out, places in the U.S. that are looped. We had a letter of support from the Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center. We had, let me see what else. Well, a copy of our PowerPoint, of course. And so I can share that with you all if you'd like. I can send it to you, Sue. And then we'll have it. Stephen Frazier keeps track of this, and he has got, I think, the most up-to-date list right now of airports. Yeah, lots of them have loops, and we're trying to make the point that, if you want to be an up-to-date airport, you really need to have them. LaGuardia has them.
Thank you. Yeah, Ginevra.
So one of the strategies we took to get around the thing that they were wanting to wait until it was a comprehensive remodel, it was that we got Alan and Tilla here to put counter loops in at each of the airline check-ins, the rental cars, I think 1 or 2 information kiosks, and do that before the gates were looped. A, they only had the budget for it, and B, they weren't quite ready to do that kind of comprehensive remodel. But meanwhile, what it means is it lets us educate our travelers that there are loops there, to praise them for having them, and then start demanding that they be installed in the gate area. Because it's great that you can hear the check-in, but then you can't hear your gate being called. And so it creates a consumer demand and lets them get started on this before you know, they're not gonna put you off, because the next thing they'll put you off for is, well, we'll try a Workcast when that comes along. And so there's that. The other thing that we've, I think there's some carrots that help with this. We've been working quite a bit, and we can get you some resources around accessible tourism. Our state is really putting money behind accessible tourism. There are a number of national organizations that are pushing that, and it just leverages more than just our own, you know, individual voices. There's a lot of money and customers that will take advantage of it. But I do think it behooves us every time we go to the airport to thank them for putting a loop in, because they don't know it and needs to raise that awareness.
Mhm, mhm.
That's
Can you
great.
send me more information about that? I'd love to share it with Lauren and with the people that we met with. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Ginevra, could you move your camera so we can see your whole face? Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Well, Harry, I know you have an update.
Sure, an update, and also for Dorothy, I know I've somewhere on all my plethora of items I've collected, I have probably another PowerPoint from Wynn or Geneva or somebody about hearing loops, but be curious if you could share that also. So it might be something Wynn would like for the CHA website too. I don't know, not to speak on her behalf, but I've got quickie several. I might have already mentioned our county clerk actually had me demonstrate the Williams PLA 90 that I have, the little portable loop. Geneva's actually got one on her back shelf behind her there that I bought from. Or not that one, but I bought one from her. And so they ordered one. All of a sudden got a call to come check it out for them. I also demonstrated it for the county assessors. I haven't heard back from them, and the mayor's office manager. So not loops, but they're a foot in the door. The Cornhusker Hotel had a conference at just recently. I emailed them that they needed an ADA information, and they did go off and buy a cheaper version that worked okay of an FM system. I was the only one that used it. I tried to convince another guy from work to try it out, and he didn't like it, whatever. But anyway, and then I pursued a work accommodation to also get one for work, which is kind of, you know, they're supposed to do it as expeditiously, whatever that word is, as possible.
Expeditiously.
Thank you, but there's no real timeline set to it. So it's been at least 2 months probably since I first got interviewed by the risk management person who's part of HR, which is not really probably the best, from what also feedback I've gotten from the folks here, that it really should be a separate ADA person. But anyway, so that's finally happening to get ordered today or hopefully this week. And then one of my more exciting things perhaps is at the kind of a push from Sue and Ginevra and Wynn, and as potentially we haven't fully put it together yet, hopefully working with Amy from Ohio to do a joint presentation at the HLAA conference in June in Indianapolis on advocacy. And I just have little bitty steps. She's got even a greater story than mine. But so that's where I'm at, and I'd love to get more info on them working with the a letter. So our airport was supposed to put in a hearing loop under a major remodel, but the story I got was they changed architects and somehow it got dropped out of the plans.
Uh-huh.
So they're supposed to do more, but it might still happen. I don't know. I need to, but it wouldn't get, I just wish I could drum up more support and interest in Lincoln. I just haven't had time to do enough outreach, working full time still, but that might change come April 1st because I'll retire. Yay. Thanks all, everybody.
That's great. Thanks so much, Harry. And, I hope you don't ever get discouraged, because you really are doing a lot. And we here in Eugene think that you and Amy could do a fantastic presentation at the HLAA conference. There's a lot of interest in grassroots advocacy, and I think a lot of people would really learn from your experiences, both of them. So speaking of Amy, do you have anything you want to say, Amy?
And Harry, thank you very much. And I've been so busy with our remodel this week, putting windows in, I honestly just have not had a minute to think about. But I will talk to you about it. And but I did want to tell you, the Cleveland Hearing and Speech they have a deaf center for the hard of hearing, and they had their grand opening today, and we had about 100 people there. And there were a number of people that from my previous presentations and the installation of the hearing loop that asked questions about the hearing loop, and one gentleman got his telecoil activated, and he actually got new hearing aids just so he could get a telecoil, which is even better. And so we did get a lot of good feedback, and they're looking to loop one of the churches in Medina now. And so, all good things come from it. And so, and I was going to reach out to all of you. The Deaf Center wants to get, they're going to be remodeling. And so if you know any consultants that deal with just overall incorporating things for deaf and hard of hearing in their buildings concepts, I would love to hear from those people because maybe they can help us out on that project. So.
Right. Sounds like a really successful open house. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else that we've missed have an update that you'd like to give at this time? We have another time on the agenda for other odds and ends. So, but if you have something now, that's fine. Anne, do you have an update by any chance?
I don't have an update other than we'll be doing another series, 6-week series in the spring. And also we hope to have part of it at Washington Commons to show off the hearing loop. So we're excited about that. I guess one question I have is, I've learned that Bose has health things that help, and I'm thinking of asking Wynn more about that and trying to get that incorporated as well. That's my update. Thank you for asking.
Sure. Okay, well, let's keep on going here then. I think the next agenda item, maybe Ginevra or Wynn or Diane would like to take care of that.
Well, I put that one on the menu because I want to keep performing arts, just a topic on this call as part of supplementing what we're doing with the next research project that we're going to do. We are designing a survey that we will be implementing with 4, maybe 5 states that takes a look at some number, say 30 to 50 different sized complexes that are all performing arts centers, not movie theaters, but performing arts centers. So outdoor amphitheaters to small inside black box theaters, all of whom are required by the ADA to have an assistive listening system. Whether they do or not, that's what we want to find out. Meanwhile, it would be, I think, really useful to continue to gather data just from you guys anytime you go to hear a concert or to go see a play, and what's happened this month in your life. I mean, maybe nobody's gone to anything, but I'd be curious just to kind of stay abreast of what you're seeing, because we have such a great cross section. And I did notice that Dear Idaho up there, which has great music in Moscow, Idaho, is not on Wynn's hearing loop list at all. So it would be pretty interesting to figure out, where does the Lionel Hampton Music Festival perform up there, and how do they meet ADA standards?
Did you have anything else you want to add, Wynn, to that?
I was not going to add to Ginevra, I was going to answer her. So I think it's really good to keep performing arts because they, out of many types of sites, that they really genuinely do want to help people to come and to enjoy the performing arts. There's a lot of good people in there. They don't always know what they don't know, but there's good, kind people there. So my adventure was I went and saw The Revenge of Dracula, something or other. It was in a black box. And afterwards, just by circumstance, I met with their accessibility person because they want to put a hearing loop in. We've been working on it for, pick a number, 7, 8, 9 years, maybe it'll happen this time around. And their reaction was, there is a lot of blood on that one. I said, yeah, I watched all the crew sweep it up and mop it up. But exactly what we've been talking about here about garbage in is garbage out in the assistive listening. And so it was a black box, and up on the ceiling was where the microphones were. So through my FM system, I heard all the running on the floor, which was almost louder than the actual actors and actresses with that. And so I did not get some of the dialogue because of that. It was a nice production. And the other thing, it's just because I know that FM, it had a range up to 30, and I had it. I'm hearing background from somewhere. I'm not quite sure. Okay, there we go. So it was I had it up at 25 out of 30, which means that their feed was not very strong with that because I had to compensate, which could have been part of distortion as well with all the running on stage and the vampires, but it was fun. Second thing, just to let you know, Ginevra and I are on the Kennedy Center for Accessibility, and different things come through. And one of them was a discussion about assistive listening. So through that, I was able to say, here's about Center for Hearing Access, and here are some worksheets that might be helpful to figure out what you want to use with that. So we have our foot in the door with that. And then you saw in the second page a map where all the hearing loops are across the country. That's going to be not a map, within the performing arts. Let me be more precise. And that will be in Juliet and Karen's presentation for the audiologists on Friday. That's why I made that.
Right.
Anne?
Just a quickie. I did go to a play the other day and had a hearing loop around my neck, and I hadn't used one of those, so I don't know that I did it completely right, but toward the end it really was good. But there was the woman who, it was kind of a one-woman show for most of it. It's called The Constitution. Saw it the day after the election. It was kind of weird, but she spoke so quickly that it was very hard to understand her. And I thought it was the device. And then at the very end, there was another actress who was much clearer. And it occurred to me as you were talking that it might be nice for one of your templates, Win, to have a reaction to the facility. In other words, it would say, I was here tonight, and I'm really glad you have a hearing loop, and I really would like the actress to speak take a little longer to speak. And I was thinking, if I were the director, I would want to direct her to slow down. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yes, good feedback, Anne. Let's see. Diane, did you want to add anything to that topic about the survey? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. I think everybody is muted because there was some background noise that was interfering.
I was just gonna say that we're just getting it started, but we're hoping to put teams together in each of the states that we end up selecting that will first examine the websites and then talk to people at each of the performing arts centers. We've revised the guides that we used last time to improve them based on the results from doing a similar set of interviewing surveys with meeting places in Oregon. So stay tuned. It's just early days yet, but we'll make a little update each time we meet, I think.
You know, Diane, it also makes me think that we don't have to use volunteers just from those states. There may be reasons that we're going to pick XYZ state and we don't have any representatives at hand. But if anybody on this call feels like they'd like to be involved in that survey, because doing it is just fascinating. There's no reason that somebody from Nebraska couldn't call somebody in Oklahoma or, you know, even further away. So if you're interested in that, we'll share the protocols with you and look at it as we go.
We were hoping to have a few people who had local knowledge of the state, but we may not be able to recruit enough people. So anyone in this group who'd like to be added to one of the teams, it'd be great. Would reduce the number for each.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's see where we are here. Wynn, oh yeah, go ahead, Wynn.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I've been reading the chat, which is, you know, we tease on other webinars. That's almost another event in of itself. So I just wanted to say, I saw yours, Vicki, about working with the byways, about accessible tourism, which is fabulous. And I hope there's hearing accessibility, because sometimes people think only about physical mobility. And if we can help with that, we're happy to. And yes, you're on mute.
Go ahead.
BluePath is the website that we're talking about, and it's been around for a while, but to find our niche, it seems like every state has tasked with having accessible tourism information on their tourism websites, and no state knows how to do it. Our website is cross disability, so it does cover hearing impairments as well as vision, mobility, and even intellectual disabilities. T-coils is not something that's been included on our surveys. So as I get more information working with you guys, that's something we can add to our surveys and start getting as an automatic thing on the website. Is it T-coil accessible, that kind of thing. So I'm really excited about it.
And BluePath, for example, blessed us and just said we were the greatest thing. And I knew they were missing the fact that we had an FM system and not a hearing loop. And I said, I want you to come back and give me another sticker when I feel that we are fully accessible.
Absolutely.
And again, those folks were folks that use wheelchairs and were much more, and were more blind and mobility, you know, more mobility impairments. So it's something that we need to get on those committees. John Curtis is a great example. He's down, at least on the bottom of my screen in Southern Oregon, of somebody that has just kind of made a practice of really trying to understand all different types of disabilities, not just something that he personally is advocating for. And it makes us better partners in that.
It does. Okay, and then let's see, I'm reading some other ones there. And Joanna, yeah, we're going to talk about captioning in just a few minutes, so we're good there. Yeah, a couple with captioning. So then I'm going to move ahead, and this next section is, we're evolving here, but it's going to be, we think it's going to be one of the standing items on the sheet as far as what have you done or what have you needed that an assistive listening system can help you out. And so some people will email me and they'll say, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm just one person. And the way I look at it is one person just means they're willing to speak out, and that there are dozens and hundreds, if not thousands of people who also need that as well. And so sharing some of this is our whole intention, as well as to keep that thinking going, that there might be some other needs out there. And, all of this keeps evolving. So the two things that landed on our collective plate, it's very common it's a small group. How do I set up something so that you can hear? And so that might be at work, that might be at a Bible study, that might be just a get together around the dinner table at Thanksgiving. And so putting those pictures on page 2, that those really handy PLA 90s can do a lot of things. So that's just some visuals of how it can be, and had some discussions as far as if you have several people that have a hearing loss, how can they all hear from that PLA? Because it's only about 3 or 4 feet, and you just can't put 4 people around one of those. So the answer, and thank you, I'm seeing the people here on the emails, thanks to Mike and Alan, the techie people, it's like, yep, 2 parallel systems, just get them side by side, and get 2 of those portables with the microphones, and that'll work. And then the other one that came across was the work I'm doing here in Denver with the Low Vision group, who is doing incredible work with accessible yoga. And the city, ADA coordinators, the instructors, they've just been phenomenal. And I did a little tiny piece to help with the hearing accessibility. And again, thanks to the people on this group, I could say, this is what I think will work. What do you think? And got that feedback. And so that's sharing that. I hope to get that throughout Colorado, as well as to publish it somewhere nationally. For low vision, as I've said before, you might have heard me say this before, 40% of people who have low vision also have hearing loss. So some of these people I was with had very low vision, but they had a mild hearing loss. And I don't need those headphones. And I said, just try it. And by George, they wore it the entire time. So, people just don't know what they don't know. So do you have any questions? Has this spurred other ideas or needs? That's the whole intent of this.
Okay. Then we're on to the next item. And that's you too, right, Lynn?
Nope. I am turning it over here to our tech spot here with Mike with Auracast. And I'll just say a comment of, this is a standing item. Auracast is exploding around us and will affect all of our lives, and we need to keep a pulse of what's going on, because people have a lot of questions, and there is tremendous hype, a lot of promises, and there is no proof on any of this. So over to you, Mike.
Okay, do I start by just contradicting you right off the top?
That's fine. It's a discussion, healthy discussion.
Well, one of the big things I looked at is this demonstration that was done at the Lincoln Center, and where they put in an Auracast transmitter and had a concert so people could listen through devices and see what they heard. And it went extremely well. The couple things to know about this. First of all, they used a transmitter that was just a TV streamer. So it was not an exotic piece of gear. It was something that was available, was kind of sitting around. So this was not where they had to build a transmitter to make this work. They used something that was available. But the second thing here is a lot of people really liked what they heard over the Auracast. And quite frankly, I'm not surprised. What they listened to, in essence, was a recording of the concert. They listened to the concert the way it would have been done if they were laying it down for distribution in another media, for a stream, for an album, for a movie, whatever. So they listened to this concert in the hands of an expert. You know, they had a fantastic miking system, didn't spare any cost. They had an excellent engineer, so that what they heard was essentially, again, what they would have heard if somebody had prepared this for another medium for that. And all I have to say in that is the people that do that are, we used to call them magic ears in the business, because these people can sit down behind a console and do things to the sound that other people can't, to make it sound better, make it sound more full, make it so you can hear everything going on, make it so that things don't fight with each other. And the one thing that comes to mind is I keep thinking of John Williams. And the reason I bring him up is he has an engineer that he has used forever. Sean Murphy has worked with John for a long, long time. They know each other well. And when the two of them get together, they're able to produce, in a very short period of time, recordings that will stand the test of time. That's fine. And I appreciate that. And I love going back to them. But comparing that to what you got acoustically in the room is apples and strawberries. You know, it's two different things. Making something work in an acoustic environment is a completely different challenge. So trying to say that one is better than the other, and that's the end of the discussion, I don't think is fair. I really don't think that's a fair way to look at it. The competition for making things work in an acoustic environment is an entirely different realm than doing this mixing like they had through the Auracast. So that being said, throwing out the fact that you can't compare them, the fact that people liked what they heard through the Auracast is not surprising. It doesn't surprise me at all. The fact that they used a simple transmitter says that the codecs are good. They're going to be fine. When it gets to the point that you can access them simply, if we have them in hearing aids and things like that, that's going to be great. You're going to get a very good quality. A lot of the things that we have issues with the loops, in terms of where you have to be in the loop, your head position, all those things will go away. But we're going to wind up with a whole new set of issues like spill and, you know, keeping things under control so people can't eavesdrop on what you're doing. It's going to be, it won't be apples and strawberries, but it's going to be apples and smaller apples. You know, it's going to be two different animals to do that. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think the quality level that's being touted is good, but I just don't think it's that important to this audience. You know, when you're talking about hearing devices, you're not talking about, you know, DC to the middle of channel 5 frequency response. A reduced frequency response is all we need to converse and work successfully with our devices. So that's not as important. It's nice that it's there. For our use case, that's not the big driver. It's going to be accessibility and ease of use. And we haven't seen that yet. Whether this is going to replace loops, I think we're going to find that there are cases where the loops are preferable for a lot of reasons having to do with how much coverage there is in the area, the ease of use, the fact that we don't need phones to do them and things like that. But it was an interesting test and a lot of people really liked it. But there again, it's not our use case. I'll stop.
Ginevra, go ahead.
So my question to you about what they liked was this notion that maybe they heard things that they never did get to hear before, because a hall like that, and frankly, any orchestra isn't accustomed to putting microphones in and amongst the instruments in order to transmit a feed to you. So when heard something at this theater, they were trying with the overhead mic, and sometimes overhead mics, and you could, this is where the microphones come into play too, both the quality of the mics as well as the skill level of the AV guy. You can use overhead mics to capture some great sound, and you can put floor mics on to capture tap dancing and then get rid of it when they're not tap dancing. So, what did they hear? Was it Auracast, or did they actually hear an orchestra for the first time in a long time?
Well, I think that's valid. And I think that a lot of times it is that way. I know that going to the Harry Potter and Star Wars concerts, for example, there's a definite effort made to make sure that what you hear in the live environment stands up to what people are used to in the recorded environment. To make sure that that piccolo solo that comes out in the middle isn't lost, because in the minds of people who've heard this 20 and 30 times, that's really important. So whether in a normal symphonic environment, you're going to dig that deep for those pieces or rely on the conductor and how he's going to do it to get them out, it is entirely possible that they're hearing a live orchestra very differently than they've ever heard it before. And that could be something like they like. Again, it's just an interesting case of that kind of thing done correctly can be extremely powerful. And but so can a live performance done properly. So it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
But they didn't take that same audience and put them in a facility and do the same performance with a hearing loop, right? So the audience really had nothing to compare it to.
Right, and you're basically putting them in the best possible structured environment for them to get the best possible sound. It wasn't something where you're comparing Auracast to loops. That wasn't the intent at all. It was to prove that this technology could work as a broadcast environment, and it can. But there again, it wasn't comparing to loops. It wasn't dealing with our use case. It was just showing that, gee, we can deliver high quality sound over this transmitting system using something pretty simple, and it works. And they did show that. Again, it's not our use case. And I think that's something we got to stick with. Is okay, that's fine. How does that help me? I think that's where this has to go. How does it help me? I mean, I could go to a concert and put on headphones and listen to it, but to me, that's not why I'm there. That doesn't help me, because for me, the whole acoustic thing is part of why I go to things like that, to see how they're going to be. But for the use case we're talking about, there are things missing that aren't there, and there are considerations that aren't there. And this type of environment with this type of engineer is not what we're going to run into 99% of the time. That's not it. So what are we going to get? We've still got, Ginevra's big four. It's got to be the microphones. It's got to be the mixer. It's got to be, people paying attention. It's got to be the ease of picking up the signal on the other side. All those things still stand. They're not changed at all. The tech changes underneath it, but all the other stuff is still the same.
Well, thank you for that review. And it's more of the same hype that we're consistently seeing, I would say.
I just wanted to add one thing there in terms of audio quality. I mean, I've been using a TV streamer, which is not an Auracast unit, but I've been using a TV streamer for 7, 8 years or something. And that's the quality. That sounds fantastic. And I get about 50 feet of range. So in my mind, the only thing different with Auracast is they probably have more range. That's, so I'm not, it's like, what was the point of this? It's like, well, we have Auracast.
Yeah, I think the point is that you could have your TV streamer taken as a CD, plugged it into the TV streamer, fed it out to the people. The experience on their end would have been exactly the same. The fact that this was in a room with an orchestra is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It really is, because you could have fed it with anything. You could have fed it off your iPhone,
Mhm.
and had the same experience from the audience perspective, except you couldn't compare it to the live. But from the standpoint of what they're getting off the Auracast, it's no different.
So this is Wynn, and I'll jump in, and thank you, Mike. That was excellent. And I love your perspectives and language. So really good. And I'm going to save a transcript so I can highlight a couple of your phrases, not necessarily the apples and strawberries, but just about some of the way that you're describing, to be saying, well, they're just basically hearing a perfect blend of the mixer like a recording. I've never heard anybody say that. So you said some really cool things with that. So I lost the thought.
Well, keep in mind that that's true for the loop as well. The quality
Yes.
of your experience depends on the attention and the skill of the person that's feeding the loop. It's always been the case. That's why the microphones in the ceiling don't work, because somebody's not listening to them and making sure that they're pointed in the right direction or balanced properly or whatever. It's always dependent on more than one thing. And the Auracast is one thing. There are mixers and microphone placements, the acoustics of the room, the attention that the talent pays to making sure that they're feeding the microphones. It's all there. It's all the same stuff. This is just a different bottle to put it in.
Yep. Different bottle. And that's my thought was, to me, it's that for the first time now, other than people with hearing loss, they're paying attention to what they're pushing out. And so I think they're just kind of catching up to saying, yeah, it's a good sound. It's a direct sound. And it's just going to be different.
Well, I think, and I think the sound has been there, but not in that environment. Go home, put it on your stereo, put on your headphones, go listen to a John Williams recording, and you get that experience. Maybe not there, but you get that experience. So it's always been there. It's just that now we can put it in that environment and put a whole bunch of headphones on people. I don't know.
So this discussion is exactly why I'd like to keep the performing arts venue topic on the list of the agenda for a little while. As you go out and experience and get more savvy to what Mike Sanders is saying and become more of an audio geek yourself, it takes some practice to understand when we talk about those 4 components. But in this case, the microphone is the key, and it's not just the quality of the microphone or the numbers of the microphone, it's the placement of the microphone and the consideration of what you're hearing. I think another good example is we had a string quartet that we mic'd and had it perfectly through the hearing loop. And then she said, I want to put a violin up in the heavens, so up in the balcony. And we said, well, wait a minute, we haven't put a microphone up there. And they said, oh, it doesn't matter. Sue Pritchard will hear 90% of what we're putting out. And we said, no, Sue Pritchard is going to hear 100%, and that means you have to put a mic up there. So when it can be as simple as that, but if you're at church and you've got the volunteer on the board running the sound, then you're not going to get a Mike Sanders back there. They don't necessarily, they know how to turn it on, and a little bit more than I do about microphones. And that's about it. So when you go, and Sue, for instance, went to hear the pastor, was great. But the harp and the singer, they just told her to move up front because they didn't put a microphone on her. Those are the experiences we want to hear from you, as well as you being able to give educated feedback on that sheet that Anne was talking about, that I think is a really good idea. You need to understand what it means to have bad sound. Were they just too loud? Were they bad musicians? Or were they really good musicians that weren't programmed, weren't funneled to your ear correctly?
And I think the classic case, and we talk about it all the time, is go turn on CNN and watch some documentary on something or other where you can't hear the person speaking because the music's too loud. That's the same job. Different guy, different set of priorities, same job. And in that environment, with all of the ability to do what happened at this concert, it didn't work because the decisions made and what they're doing, it didn't work. So you can't just say that Auracast is going to fix stuff, because it's not. It's just a faster car to put a bad driver in.
Like I said, I love your perspectives, Mike. It's just so good.
I'll keep going.
Yeah. So I'll just, my summary of how I'm looking at it is, I think it was a very well orchestrated, bad pun, because there's an orchestra there, very well orchestrated event with, as you said, the gurus of the AV. And it was all, they had a select audience. I mean, it was very carefully selected who was invited and who was not invited. And it was for one hearing aid manufacturer, and that's Resound. So there is no guarantee that what they did, that any manufacturer can come in, and you said, that's the promise, and it's going to come, and that's going to be exciting. But no guarantees at this point in the back corner that it's going to work with any kind of manufacturer. Or take out the Resound TV transmitter and put in a Phonak TV transmitter. There's, my little math brain does exponential calculations to say there's a lot of permutations and combinations for this all to work, but it's kind of fun. So I think we're good with that. I'm going to just add the national perspectives. Some of it, because when I see, trends, that's really helpful. And, I'm happy to share everything that I can. I do have a lot of confidential stuff happening nationally and internationally. And when I can, I'll be sharing that. But my intent on that third page is, if you're interested, here's what it is, and you can click and read some more, and then let me know if I can help you with anything with that. Some of the two highlights that I wanted to mention, or I guess three. So one is Julia and Karen's audiology online. So this is for the audiologists and the hearing instrument specialists across the country. They have to take so many continuing ed, just like any profession, every so often. So they're a tag team. They've done it before, and they've had a good turnout and a lot of cheerleading. But this time something is different. There's over 500 registered. I'm sure it's higher than that because that's an old number. And the organization itself is saying, what's happening? Why are so many people signing up for this? And part of it is that allure of Oracast that people want to be on the cutting edge. And if you don't know Karen and Juliet, they're both well-respected audiologists, have been around for a while, and they're going to tell them the reality. And they are both of them very, very pro assistive listening. So that's happening on Friday. And then Sue and I conspired a little bit. We went into some of the user forums and I posed the question, does your audiologist know how to turn on a telecoil? If they don't, here's the course that they can take. So it was like reverse grassroots, just to get that out there and to pose that question. And so that's been kind of fun with that. So that's one. The second thing, and it's on the third page, down in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there is an affordable housing complex. There's 90 units, and a third of them are hearing accessible. It is the first of its kind in the country like this. They already won an award, and they'll be getting it in 2025. But those hearing loops are in there, in the kitchen, in the living area. And the installer, Aaron, who's here in Colorado, is doing that work. So that's why I have a little bit of this insight. So I want to keep that.
And when, on that point, there is a recording, I can't remember now, but I want to say 6 months ago on the Albuquerque HLAA website, recording of the woman that was leading that from the building's perspective. She's remarkable in what they did down there. So go to the HLAA Albuquerque chapter website and look for that session. It was terrific. She's somebody maybe we could, if we wanted to go into the guest speaker thing, we probably could get her to talk to this group if you want.
Cool. Good to know. I put that on my to-do list. So very, very helpful with that. And then I think the last thing is to say, touching into Canada. So 40 of their grocery stores are having more hearing accessibility. So the link is on there. But as I wrote Tracy, it's already there in Oregon. And then we do have some on the East Coast with Publix, Publix for you, Rose. It's a weird name. And there's also Kinney Drugs. Kinney is a result of some legal action. So I just kind of watched the chains. So that's kind of my national update there. And then I just want to ask, are there any question with what you've read? I don't expect you to know it all. I don't think anybody cares about everything, but if you want to, you can just say, oh, this is interesting, and read whatever. So any questions on anything or anything that you need? Yeah, Amy.
I guess I just want to emphasize a little bit more to what Mike was talking about, and then the upcoming presentation that Juliet has, that regarding the hearing loops, of just how easy it is to connect to a hearing loop, and to keep emphasizing that, because I've talked to so many people, and the minute if you start telling them they have to do this step, this step, this step, you've lost them already. And Oracast, I know that a lot of younger people will love it, but the idea you have to do at least 2 or 3 steps to get into it, you've already lost a lot of people. And there's going to be a lot of younger people that are more tech savvy that will be able to do it. But there also is a huge number of people that just want to click their telecoil on and click it off, and that's the extent of what they will do. but they love it and they will learn that. So I just, they really have to take that into account also, why telecoil still need to stay in place in the, if and when Oracast comes into play, because it's just so simple.
Oh, you saw my head bobbing up and down. Yes, totally agree with that. It's what you said, it's what Mike said. It's about that. You know, it's not that people are lazy, it's just that people like the easiest, simplest thing. We got all of
Yeah.
that going on. And then when you're not techie, to say you have to do 2 or 3 steps that involves technology, that's too much for some people. And then I have a little phrase where I copy paste, then you get into any cognitive dexterity, multiple disabilities. It has to be the contrast, the simplicity has to be off the scales with that. And so everything I write, I try to put that in. And I saw a finger wave from you, Mike. So I don't know if that.
Just on the thing of simplicity, I think what I see is when you get in a situation where you need that stuff, you're already at, I need help. You're already at, it's not working. The tension, the anxiety levels are rising. Now I got to go fix this so I can, you start diving into tech or whatever, even if it's just clicking up here to get there. Clicking up here is fine because it's easier. But to start down a complicated path to get it fixed when you already can't hear, usually there's a time problem because you need to hear now. That's why it's not working. So all of these things are important. And unless the tech can meet our use case, which is gotcha, then it's not there.
Yep. Okay.
Just wanted to mention one thing, what's a complication, I think, is that I think today almost everybody's hearing aids have probably at least 3, 4 programs. So just touching your hearing aid to switch to a telecoil, it's like, it might be the second, it might be the third, it might be the 4th program. And that's just another hurdle.
Yep.
Mhm.
So here you agree, writing on it, and a heck of a lot more to come around that. So stay tuned. I'm going to move ahead to the next item. So also a standing item, if we have time, is to do some kind of a refresher or mini training. And this one comes, I'm going to go ahead and share this. Let's see, in my computer last time I tried sharing choked, but looks like we're good here. And I'm not even going to try to go into presenter mode. I'm just going to keep it in here. I only have 2 slides. And so this kind of came from Sue sent out an inquiry about assistive listening and captioning at the movie theater a couple months ago. And so this is kind of ongoing. And so last month, Mike and Alan did a picture to say, well, what is assistive listening? So we kind of start learning about how that magic happens behind the scenes. And building on that is just a little bit around captioning. And part of this came from Joanna, part of it comes from other things that have hit me. And so I want to, this is what I've put up here. There's nothing that we don't already know. But my reason of putting it in a slide is that it gives us a visual and so it's not just all auditory, and it keeps us focused. So, and I did put in a little bit because there are so many needs that we have as people with hearing loss. That's like, And we need to do this, and there's a problem here. And that scope creep or that mission creep in a nonprofit, I try to manage with that. So with Center for Hearing Access, we're totally focused on assistive listening. You know, all flavors, all models, anything related to that. And, you know, what goes in the 4 points, you know, all of that's there. Then other things overlap sometimes with that because it's about accessibility. So there might be other technologies going on, you know, different smoke detectors, the apps on the smartphones, that kind of a thing. And then here we go, captions with closed captions and open captions. And it comes up to say, well, if we have captions, do we have to have an assistive listening? Or if we have assistive listening, do we have to have captions? And the answer is they are two separate things. And they have two separate regulations, and there is nothing that talks about how one supersedes the other one. So that's what the law and the regulations are saying. But when you have hearing loss and you're not techie and you don't have staff who know how to work with hearing loss, it just jumbles all around with that. And so poor Joanna, and I'm sorry that she jumped off, is that she's in situations where the assistive listening does not work and they don't have captions. And so she's trying to get captions on her smartphone and the people are scolding her. So she's trying to make a workaround for a bad situation with what's going on. And so putting that here and saying, you know, it's not what's the workaround, that's just in the situation if you need to hear. The question is, how can you advocate? How can you give feedback? How can you file the complaint, you know, whatever kind of a level is going on? And that part of advocacy, yeah, kind of goes under CHA with it. And then I also put down the personal things with, we mentioned it, you know, when they say, oh, you know, sit in the front row. That's what I grew up with. That was my accommodation, was you sit in the front row. And then with that all these regulations are just crazy. So I had somebody here in Colorado went on a cruise, and an American-based cruise did not have an assistive listening, did not have captions, wants to file a complaint. Figure that one out. You know, who is the governing body for cruise ships to file a complaint for assistive listening? You know, that's under CHA. So I'm going to be learning that one. I haven't researched that. I did about 20 minutes and I said, I need more time. So I said, well, just file with the Department of Justice because they're the overall body of that. And the DOJ said, no, thank you. They're overwhelmed and they have too much going on. I thought it was an open and shut case. It's like you either have it or you don't have it. So figuring out, okay, we'll try filing another way. So then with captions, it really depends. You can't say all movie theaters have to have captions. So I want to just touch in this a little bit because this overlaps with our CHA work of what's supposed to be there. So it depends on their technology that they have, you know, what's being projected there. Do they have the capability of captions? And then the second one is what kind of a film coming in. So if it's one of this independent film coming in from France, it may or may not have a caption file coming in with that. So my second slide is more about what's the difference between closed and open. And before I get there, before I move slides, any questions or comments or expanding this further? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to move on. So this is about two different types of movie theater captioning. So one is closed captions and the other is open captions. So closed captions means it's closed to everybody unless you push the button somewhere or you have a device. So on our TVs, you know, we all have our remote where you can push the closed caption button and then it'll show up. It's not there by default. In the movie theater, this shows one of the armchair cup holders where you have that device and it comes up and you have to position it just right so you can see the captions and then you watch the movie behind it. The other one is to wear those heavy glasses and you can watch the captions through the glasses there. So those are all closed captions. Open captions, and there are advocates, and some of you might be there, is where everybody sees those open caption movies. And so it's there, there's no devices, they are part of the movie. So it's just a matter of the sound people, they hit the button and they turn it on. The advocates are doing it where they're trying to get, you know, so many open caption movies per week in the theaters. Going on with that, and there's a lot of stuff going. There's a Facebook group and all of it. And then the third type, which I didn't put on here, it's not necessarily caption, but it's descriptive audio. So for the low vision, they can get a descriptive audio and they will hear more of a description about what us as people who have vision acuity are seeing on that. And that's also available. So that's an overview. Any questions, comments, anything further with that? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here. And then my little Zoom will come back. Okay, and then our last 10-15 minutes are things that have either come up from this conversation that you think we need to talk about more, or things just happening around you with assistive listening that, you know, it's like we got a great sounding board. You know, you can send some emails to people. You know, the emails kind of they go in waves and they're good. But sometimes it's just nice to talk about things. So
Wynn, I realized one thing that we missed on the agenda was about sound advice on Saturday.
Oh.
And so if I could just do a quick thing on that, that would be great. For those of you who aren't familiar with the program that we have, once a month on every second Saturday at 10 o'clock, we hold a session called Sound Advice, which is open to the public. It's where people can come and learn about hearing loops, experience hearing loops, and share other stories, problems, issues, complications they have with their hearing. And this past weekend, we had a smashing session. I don't remember the exact count. Was it 10 new people, Ginevra? 12. Okay. 12 new people came, which was fantastic. And they all had, you know, slightly different hearing issues. There were a couple of people who didn't have hearing aids yet, but are getting them. There was one gentleman who heard through the loop for the first time and was so excited about it. It was a good mix. There were two or three couples there, which was nice because, you know, it's nice if you have a partner or a spouse or a good friend who can help you through your hearing loss journey. It was wonderful. It was really a great session. And let's see, Alan was there and Diane was there and Mike McCabe was there. Do Does either one of you have, or do any of you have any comments you'd like to add about it? Diane?
I just have a reflection. It was a very good session and it was interesting meeting all these new people with their unique set of experiences and needs. But one of the things I happened to notice in the course of the discussion was how many people were already self-advocating that we need to fix this place and that place. There was a long discussion about the Holt Center and what was and what wasn't working and why it worked or didn't work or how you experience it. And also the why. Brand new building, they promised to loop, and they're not even using Ginevra's portable loop at the front desk because I've looked for it and asked about it. So, but I was pleased to see that there were people who were ready to go meet with Brian Steffens and, you know, talk to him about it. I thought
That's great. Thanks, Diane. Alan?
I just found it interesting, the one woman who brought up the issue about the packaging on disposable hearing aid batteries. I had no idea that that was going on, and here I was saying, oh, there's plenty of manufacturers, try a different manufacturer. Well, it turns out there's a law that was passed because they don't want small children to swallow hearing aid batteries, and now the packaging on the hearing aid batteries is you know, you need a jackhammer and 3 you know, logmen to get into it just to get a hearing aid battery. You know, it's just, it's absurd. You know, and so just last night I stumbled on Dr. Cliff talking about this, where, you know, there's dexterity issues for older people, and there's so many things surrounding this, and it's like, you know, Cliff is saying, you know, this could be the death of hearing aid batteries with this law in place because nobody's going to want to deal with it.
Pardon my husband who's taking out the garbage. Mike, go ahead.
We appreciate it. You know, the most interesting wrinkle on Saturday for me was the number of people who had who came with over-the-counter hearing aids and were having difficulty. One particular individual had gone to an ENT specialist and got no help whatsoever, not really realizing that what they really needed to be doing was going to an audiologist. And I think one of the good things that we're doing is that we're encouraging people who are having difficulty with their over-the-counter hearing aids to at least consult with an audiologist, because their particular problem may be solved through somebody who understands the need that somebody who's selling you a hearing aid over the counter just doesn't get. And so I think we're doing some good work there by getting people to the right kinds of specialists to at least evaluate the need.
Yes, good point. And I've already had 2 or 3 responses from people expressing gratitude for the session and feeling like they really got a lot out of it, which is wonderful. Anne, did you have a comment?
Oh, just, I have to say that I have some jealousy of what you're doing there. And, but in thinking of how you spread the word, you know, and I'm not ready to do it, but I think that having that sound advice is something that should go national.
I agree with you. It is, I mean, every time we do it, I go away thinking we have helped people significantly. If not technically, then at least emotionally. And in most cases, in both ways, I would say.
And also, I think you're also encouraging this self-advocacy, which is so important.
Right. That's right. Great. Okay, that's all I had in that section. Does anybody else have anything that we've missed? How about Crystal? Do you have anything you want to add at this point?
Not today. I've missed last month, so catching up, and I'm wanting to look over the agenda and all the links, but I am loving the discussion today.
Great,
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alan?
Just wanted to mention, I'm doing tons and tons and tons of counter loops these days. Just last week, I finished 15 counter loops at the halt, and 2 weeks before, 6 counter loops at Portland Airport. Tomorrow, I'm putting in 2 at the City of Monmouth City Hall. And on Friday, the 3 counter loops for the Wilsonville Library. So there's lots of good things going on. It's just like, in fact, my supplier for counter loops, they were temporarily out of stock because I've been buying so much. Nice problem to have.
That is so
That's
great
so
that you're doing
great.
that. You sound really busy. I was curious, Ellen, I mean, I've been really curious about what one, my husband's really interested in putting one in our church, but we don't know enough about doing that. And so I was wondering if that was something I could get some information on, or I don't know.
A counter loop or a room
So
loop?
he was talking about the temporary loops that we can kind of move around in the church, and getting a better idea of what that looks like.
There's a number of things to consider. A temporary loop can be easily accomplished if it's smaller. Once you get into a bigger loop, it requires some technical expertise to make sure that's a good experience.
Right.
So from the conversation, the emails that you and I've been having, I'm thinking one thing that would be really helpful is to see if we can't find a loop or 2 in Idaho. I mean, it's the fact that they're not on WIN's list of loops around the country doesn't mean they don't exist. It means they haven't been identified and verified. So that, and I'm sorry, it won't be till May that you can come, because I think just feeling and hearing this, the church thing, but I would say that Alan, you and Crystal ought to get together on the church thing, because you don't need the temporary loop really to demonstrate this so much. If you go online, churches are one of the places that have got all kinds of audio examples, and a lot of it is Juliet Sturkin's work, because she's got 600. I mean, those Lutherans in Wisconsin are really hearing their church services. And, there's 600 churches there. And so there are a lot of people that can connect with it. And it's a fairly straightforward concept, really, get anything that's already mic'd through the loop, and then put a mic on the organ or the music or whatever so that you can hear that. And you're done in the sanctuary.
Right.
You don't need a temporary thing. And he can come up with a ballpark cost, assuming that it's a normal building, the costs come up when you've got lots of metal or electrical or something that you have to mitigate. But, there are hundreds literally of examples around. We just don't know any in Idaho right now, but that's something we should find. There's 3, 4, but they're not on your list, Win.
Yeah, so Crystal, you can shoot me an email. I can give you a bunch of information to help you proceed on this.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
And I may be speaking out of turn, but Alan, if I'm not mistaken, Idaho isn't really that far from Oregon. And you've already covered a lot of ground. Why not just go to Idaho?
Yeah, how close are you to Boise? Because I flew into Boise to put a counter loop in the Travel Oregon, Ontario Welcome Center. So.
Oh, I think it's about 5 or 6 hours north from Boise, if I'm correct. Vicky, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, let's shoot me an email, get the conversation going, and figure out what see if I can determine, the building, how it's built and all that, and
Okay.
just a bunch of questions and figure out what will work.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Geneva and Sue.
Wynn, do you have anything else you want to do on this agenda? Oops, you're muted.
So easy to do that, isn't it? Yeah, I'm good, and I'm looking, it's like, we're right on time. So.
When are you gonna unpack your quirky thing that says apologies? We are currently fixing a technical issue with our hearing loop system as personal neck loops are not available until this is resolved.
Yeah, I visit dozens, I have hundreds in my bookmarks, and I have a bookmark that's just about errors and quirky things. So this one came up with how people write it. And so I'm like, well, let's just put that down just for a little bit of lightness. So they got it wrong. So you either have a hearing loop or you have a neck loop. The two don't go together. So they wrote it wrong. So it was an infrared system. And so it should have been that we have an infrared system, that personal neck loops aren't working right now. And so they like totally messed it up, and just thought I'd share my quirky, weird sense of humor that I just kind of laugh when I come across.
Yeah, so which button on your iPhone do you press to fix that?
Yeah. Only it was that easy.
Okay, well, I can't believe how this timing worked. It's absolutely perfect. So unless anybody has anything else, we will adjourn. I love the fact that we have so many people coming from so many different directions and so many different situations. We're all just learning so much in the process. It's fantastic. I don't think we have anything else that we need to do at this time. You'll notice that from now on, the link for the Zoom connection is going to be in the agenda. So we won't be sending out 2 emails. So you'll just get 1 email with the agenda and the link will be in there. And that will be consistent from now on. Thank you, Wynn. I love that. And unless somebody has anything else, we are good for today. We're expecting a big windstorm in Eugene tonight. So it should be an interesting evening. Oh, Mike, did you have something you wanted to say? No, you were just waving goodbye. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you.